hoping I would go and be a nurse or a teacher, and I just kept thinking, I can't do that. I have to do something different that will push myself even more. And so if truth be told, I always wanted to be a pilot. I had the need for speed. I still to this day, I don't know, I like fast cars, I like airplanes. I almost got a motorcycle one time, but I didn't. That's a whole nother story, which is probably a good thing I didn't. I know some people drive motorcycles, but not probably safe for myself. But I couldn't. I have really bad eye vision at the time, and you couldn't do correction for it and still go to the Air Force or to really commercial flying. So I decided, okay, I can't be a pilot, but what can I do that's different? And so my undergraduate degree is in accounting. I loved numbers. And so and I fell into that because that was a class I made straight A's. I was like, oh, this is great. This is easy. I can do math. And so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But I love math. I love numbers. I also would look around. After taking the accounting classes, I started taking technology classes. And there were very few people who looked like me. I mean, I felt like I was in a sea or just a country, unbeknownst to myself, something very different. But through that opportunity, I learned that if I put my mind to it and I focus, I could do anything I wanted to do. And so after college, I went to graduate school. I got an MBA and focused in marketing and computer science. I was still conflicted. I wasn't sure what path I was going to take. And so after graduate school, I started working with a consulting company. And this next story will probably be something that you'll remember once I tell the story to you. But I started in a consulting company. That's where I got my technical chops, if you will. They sent me through a boot camp, as they do with everybody that comes in new to the organization, for about 8 weeks. It was in that boot camp that I learned how to code. I learned how to develop reports. I started with C++. I know this is really going to age me. So that's where I learned, though, for 2 years. So I was finished with there. It was raining. He looked up at me. There's a lot of golf outings at the table, his seat at the table. And so I left that day for my parents instilling it in me. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever you put your heart to. The advice my parents always gave me was sit up straight, don't sit in the back of the room, and ask insightful questions, right? Don't give up. And so I grew up thinking that stuff, you know what, I will make partner. And when I do, I'll make sure he knows it. And so 12 years later, I made partner with a consulting company. And it was, for me, inspirational, not only because it was a goal, but it also told me that if I'm going to have someone tell me no and that I can't, that I can rebound against that. That I can find that's their perspective. That's not who you are, that's who they are. And so while a lot of times advice is well and good meaning advice, if you get advice that doesn't feel in your gut that makes sense, I tell you guys that it was the best decision that I made. Why? Because AT&T puts their mouth where their money is and they walk the talk. It is a very diverse company. They believe in diversity, and so I've been very fortunate to have some wonderful experience. So when I think about leadership, and I get a question a lot about, well, you know, how do you continue to make sure every day that you bring your best self to work? What are your leadership principles and your styles? And so there's authenticity and becomes a conversation for the future that really can transform your relationship and the organization as well. The second is collaborating. I was talking to folks earlier and explained to them, because of technology, information is no longer power, right? Everybody has access to the internet and to all types of data and information. So the way for you to be successful, and we think differently, right? So a couple things I would tell you is that when I think about some of my opportunities throughout my career, trust and collaboration were key. When I came into AT&T now 11 years ago, my first role and responsibility was to launch the iPhone. Well, it was exciting. I mean, that was the time the first smartphone was coming, and we didn't know how much it was going to revolutionize the industry. Had no idea. But remember, I came from the role that I had, and I had to be really good at collaborating. Why? Because I needed people across the whole company to get this product launched. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew who did. So I had to quickly build relationships, and when you do that, you have to come at it from the perspective of that person, not what you want and need, what they want and they need. How can I help them? And so by doing that, you extend trust, you build collaboration. And so that year we launched the first iPhone successfully, and then of course, you know, every year thereafter. But it was a huge test for me and a lesson to know that I'm so much better with others than you are on yourselves, by yourself. Okay, the third, but it's not that you can't get it done. Okay, let's talk about diversity here in Argentina, in SSLA, but also at VRIO. And so when you think about diversity, here's what I tell people. Diversity is a fact. You can look at it, you can look. So this is just not an interesting topic and something important because we think it's important at VRIO. It's important because they're earning anywhere from 15 to 30% more shareholder value than those who aren't. So there are facts, there are customers that are sitting with us, and it's about driving engagement across our teams through inclusion, and then hopefully driving benefit to our shareholders. Okay, so when you look at VRIO, you know, when I first looked at this number, I thought, wow, we have 40%. Look at the women in leadership positions, 38%. As an organization, we are losing women as we progress up the leadership, right? And there's a number of different reasons for that. But we as individuals, whether you're male or female, we have to own this number. There are two particular places when you think about a pipeline for women that are important. One is when we hire people, right? So right then, when you get people in the door, if you don't have a diversity, if you don't have a balance, 50-50 or close to that, you're going to slide behind. So again, with the facts that I make sure that we have women in our workforce and we balance that equation, there are lots. And some of it is invisible disabilities, right? You can look at me and say, yeah, I'm a woman. But they're going through. So there are different disabilities that we need to be acknowledged of or that we need to be cognizant of and make sure that we're equipped and prepared to be able to support those people as well. Brazil as well. This is a great start. It helps us with education. It helps us with getting a pulse on the organization and what we're doing right and what we need to do more of. So I'm really proud that this company has this initiative and has for several years. And so this is the starting point. Still, we need to do more. We need to figure out how to take these capabilities in this room, in this organization, helping out. There's no way that we will push the boundaries and get equality if we don't have the men involved as well. Okay, I am very happy to report, though, and when you think about Great Place to Work, right? For, multiple years now, we're in the top 20. That is really, really good. Now, I want to be better, right? We all want to be better, but that's a start. Okay, and so some of the things that I would like to talk to this team about. So what can we do? What can we do to help drive diversity? How do we help each other out? And so when you sit back and you think about, I need you to help make sure that we're given this example before, but when you step back, women generally will not raise their hand for a role unless they're 80 to 90% confident they can do that role. Men will raise their hand if they're 20 to 30% confident. It's a fact. I mean, that's the study. And so when I say be a champion for women, guess what? That means you got to pull them. Sometimes you have to say, you should have a seat at this table. You should ask your question. You should apply for that position. And I know you're sitting there thinking, well, women do that all the time. Why do I need to help? Oh, yeah. Isn't that what I just said? So be cognizant of that. And third, know that every time you promote a female, it does not take away a position from a male. That is not how it works. There are plenty of opportunities out there. It's about having a diverse workforce so that you have an engaged workforce, right? The engaged workforce is what drives results, okay? And then the last thing that I'd say is we need to put programs in place so that we measure this. We already have some of that today, but I'm going to ask each of you that when you sit down at a table, you look to your right, you look to your left. Do people look like you, or are they diverse? When you have job openings, look at the slate of the people who are applying. Do they look like you, or are they diverse? Do you have at least a female and a male candidate, right? And also, you're a mentor today to some folks in the room. Continue that, right? And as a mentor, it's pretty easy. You have to be available. You need to be giving advice, and you need to help them open doors, right? So that we can continue to grow the workforce. You are really, really important. And the last thing that I'll say is that the men in this room, whether you believe in the initiative or not, each one of you has a mom. You may have a sister. You may have a daughter. And so think about the workforce 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. It has to start somewhere, okay? So that's why I'm asking each of you to make sure that you ask the questions. Are you promoting? Are you looking at almost the, excuse me, the person who maybe you don't think is the person because they're not in your team, but they're someone that's different. So you can help promote them and make sure that they're engaged. Okay, let's see, what else? So this is what I talked about, right? It does. It takes a village. It takes all of us to do this together, right? And also the one thing, the story that I would share, sometimes what I found is that women in the workforce, women that are in leadership roles, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to promote other females. You have a responsibility to help support them. Because it's not enough just to have 1 or 2 or 3 women at the table, right? When someone gives you a hand up, you better reach back and have a hand to help them as well. So we can all be strong advocates of each other. Okay, last but not least, and this is some of the things I talked about, but I think as leaders, we do have to make sure that we understand there will be challenges along the way, right? Whether it's the job you're in, whether it's the opportunity that you're looking at, there will be challenges, but expect that, right? And still push each other to make sure that we have the best thought and the best organization. Okay, so with that, I'll wrap up, and then we'll go into our panel discussion. So, gracias. The person who made... Gracias por la introducción.
Y súbale. Hola, ¿sí? ¿Les llega a ustedes también? Sin problema. Hola, sí, 1, 2. No leemos tanto. Sí, sí, 1, 2. Hola, hola, sí. 1, 2. Miremos a dónde le está llegando. Sí, prendamos el 2 para Vanessa. Y subámosle un poquito. Listo, Vanessa.
Hola, 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 ¿me escuchan?
Subámosle más.
Está bajito, sí.
Sí, sí, sí.
Toca ponérselo en la boca y...
Ah, correcto.
Hola, hola,
Subámosle
hola.
más.
¿Me
Eso.
escuchan en el streaming? Hola, hola, hola.
¿Y si lo escuchas?
Hola, hola, hola. Hello. Good night. Hola, hola, hola.
¿Sí la estás
Chicos,
escuchando? Sin problema
chicos
también el
de
2.
la noche. Good
Ok.
night. ¿Listo?
Listo, sí, sí. Nosotros básicamente los envíos ya los tenemos todos.
Toca pilitas ahí porque estos los que le cogen a uno a veces le toman el pelo son estas baterías.
Sí, sí.
Ay, mira, algo toca.
Hola, hola, hola. Hola, hola. ¿Ese es el 2? Se tiró el canal. Hola, hola. Ábralo. Ábralo, ábralo. Deme el 2, súbale. Hola, hola, hola. Sí, 1, 2. Hola, hola, sí. 1, 2. Eso. 1, 2. Hola, sí. 1, 1, 2. Sí.
Es un placer estar con ustedes hoy. Si me lo permiten, cambiar inglés. I tried. I'm practicing. I am practicing still. So people ask me sometimes, so what's the hardest thing or what have you learned? And for me, I think learning another language, it's a great goal. It's something that I'll continue to work on. But you guys will hear throughout this presentation, I will talk about courage. And I think with courage comes inspiration, and you have to kind of imagine the future through courage. And part of the way I do that is making sure I'm never complacent, which means I don't settle. I'm always trying to push myself and learn something new. So thank you for having me here today. I am so excited to be part of this women's leadership group. I can't tell you how passionate I am about this initiative. And so I'm going to start, if you will allow me, to talk a little bit about my personal story. Then I'm going to talk about why is diversity important at VRIO. And then most importantly, what are we doing about it? And what do I need from each of you here in the room, as well as those that are listening or watching this through Blue Jeans. And then we're going to have plenty of time for a panel and for questions. So please be thinking about your questions. That's the time I enjoy the most, because I get to hear from you what's on your hearts and on your minds. And this diversity initiative, guys, folks, it's a challenge. It's not going to come naturally to any of us. We all have biases. I don't care where you grew up, what your beliefs are. I have biases. Everybody does, right? It's just part of who we are as human beings in our culture. And so we will work together better and better as soon as we start to understand those biases, understand when they come into play, and then help each other guard against them. Okay, so I'll start with my background. I get a question a lot about who are you? Where did you come from? You mean, I get this question like, you work in IT? With this head roll of, you don't look like you could be a technologist. And all those are true. I mean, guys, that's part of this unconscious bias. But I guess my story is I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up on the Mississippi River, which is really the river between Arkansas and Tennessee. My family loved to barbecue. We were on barbecue cooking teams, believe it or not. We competed in championships, mainly my dad, but all the kids were there to help him. We love to sing. I didn't say we're good at it, but we like to sing. We love to dance, and we get a little rowdy sometimes. And so that's kind of the way that I grew up. And I have 2 siblings. I have an older brother and a younger sister. My parents and then my aunts and uncles, they all had boys in their whole family. So I was the first daughter to come along and the first granddaughter to come along. And they really wanted me to grow up as a girl. And part of that was they wanted me to dance. They wanted me to do pageants. They wanted me to model. I mean, all those things that I'm thinking, well, this is great. But and for me, it was just not what I wanted to do. It wasn't in my DNA. I wanted to compete. I wanted to be with my brother on the soccer field. I wanted to play basketball with my cousins. I wanted to play hockey with some of my friends. I don't know what it was, but at a very early age, I had this drive and need for passion to inspire people, to inspire myself, to be competitive, and just to drive for differences. And so growing up, my parents were very much about education. And while they were intent on making sure I went to college, I wanted to keep going. I went to graduate school. I wanted to get my doctorate. I don't know why, but I enjoy studying and learning so much. But one day my parents said, Melissa, you got to get out and get a job. You got to get a job. We're done. So, okay. And by the way, I put myself through college and graduate school. My parents, we didn't grow up in a well-to-do family. And even though they had money to take care of us, they were very much, you need to earn your way, you can pay for your school, and you'll learn good lessons out of that. So while education was important to them, we never talked about STEM. We never talked about technology. You know, I think my mom was hoping I would go and be a nurse or a teacher, and I just kept thinking, I can't do that. I have to do something different that will push myself even more. And so if truth be told, I always wanted to be a pilot. I had the need for speed. I still to this day, I don't know, I like fast cars, I like airplanes. I almost got a motorcycle one time, but I didn't. That's a whole other story, which is probably a good thing I didn't. I know some people drive motorcycles, but not probably safe for myself. But I couldn't. I have really bad eye vision at the time, and you couldn't do correction for it and still go to the Air Force or to really commercial flying. So I decided, okay, I can't be a pilot, but what can I do that's different? And so my undergraduate degree is in accounting. I loved numbers. And so I fell into that because that was a class I made straight A's. I was like, oh, this is great. This is easy. I can do math. And so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I love math. I love numbers. I also would look around. After taking the accounting classes, I started taking technology classes. And there were very few people who looked like me. I mean, I felt like I was in a sea or just a country, unbeknownst to myself, something very different. But through that opportunity, I learned that if I put my mind to it and I focus, I could do anything I wanted to do. And so after college, I went to graduate school. I got an MBA and focused in marketing and computer science. I was still conflicted. I wasn't sure what path I was going to take. And so after graduate school, I started working with a consulting company. And this next story will probably be something that you'll remember once I tell the story to you. But I started a consulting company. That's where I got my technical chops, if you will. They sent me through a boot camp, as they do with everybody that comes in new to the organization, for about 8 weeks. It was in that boot camp that I learned how to code. I learned how to develop reports. I started with C++. I know this is really going to age me. So that's where I learned, though, my technology and also learned about infrastructure and how to make things work. And I got very excited about knowing that if I could program something, you could get the result, and that result then could be beneficial for the team that you were working on. So I really enjoyed doing that. I was with this company for 2 years. I thought my career was going very well. I had reviews on a regular basis. All the feedback that I received was very positive. So I just was promoted from analyst to consultant. And in the consulting arena, it's very much up